Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro magazine thing, because this time we're going to be looking at White Wolf magazine, issue number 33 from November-December 1992. Now, White Wolf magazine obviously is the in-house magazine of White Wolf Publishing, the people who brought us Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, but they do a lot more things, cover a lot more things than just their own games. We've got some Shadowrun stuff and other games covered within those pages. One of the magazines like Challenge and White Dwarf, when it first started off, covering so many games outside their own, rather than just publishing for their own stuff. Fantastic, and we'll have a great time looking through that. Now, as usual, I've got to ask you to do all the YouTube things. So please like, subscribe, and comment down below. As I've said, these are my least successful series of videos. People don't really like looking at these magazines, but I do appreciate all the comments of support I've had the last few weeks. Very much appreciated, so I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I do absolutely enjoy reading those and really appreciate hearing how you watch the videos. There's been some lovely, lovely comments, so thank you once again. But anyway, let's go over and have a look through White Wolf magazine issue number 33. So, this is White Wolf magazine, issue number 33 from November-December 1992. Now, White Wolf magazine isn't one of my favourites, but it does have a lot of great articles in it. And like Challenge magazine, which was by Games Designers Workshop, White Wolf magazine is obviously by White Wolf Publishing, it doesn't just support their own games. While it does support Werewolf the Apocalypse and Ars Magica, which are both by White Wolf, we've also got stuff for Shadowrun in here and Battletech, and along with a large poster for Dracula, which I guess had just come out. And we've got an image here which seems to be a vampire attacking a werewolf, probably. Anyway, inside, we've got the most playable computer game, role-playing game ever made, most replayable, Quest for Glory 3. I have no memory of that at all. An advert for Mayfair Games for Demons, Denizens of Vekaron. 64 more hole-punch demon sheets will put your players to the test. Very nice artwork indeed. Contents page. The editorial, runes section. From the pack, so letters pages. Small advert for Amber Dice List there. Subscribe to White Wolf magazine, going from the very early issues up to very nicely published ones later on. And then we've got an article for Shadowrun, Shadows Over the Big Easy, Party Crashers. So last issue they introduced us to Shadowrun in New Orleans and that sort of area. So this time they're giving us an adventure. Party Crashers, an adventure for Shadowrun set in the New Orleans sprawl. 4 to 6 lowly experienced characters during Mardi Gras. So we've got the standard contents, Mr. Johnson meeting up with them, different corporations, encounters, sand so your decker can do something, a boat, obviously that's going to be the boat that they raid, that they party crash, the party itself, loads and loads in here. Absolutely fantastically detailed adventures. And that's what White Wolf magazine did really, really well. It dove in really deep to subjects, but that means you don't get quite as much in it. So while I prefer Challenge magazine because you got so many articles and glimpses into so many different games, this was much deeper and more detailed. And obviously because they're using the same writers who write for loads and loads of White Wolf games, we're getting very high quality stuff. We've got an advert for Gary Gygax's Dangerous Journeys and the Mythos Fantasy Role-Playing Game. An advert for various Ars Magica supplements. The Silicon Dungeon, so video games, we're getting reviews of here. Ultima 7, The Black Gate. Prophecy in the Shadow, Dark Queen of Kryn. Had loads and loads of fun playing that back in the day. Quest for Glory 1. And then we've got a feature on Werewolf the Apocalypse. Obviously it had just come out. I'm surprised at them rating their own game only a 4. But they go into loads of famous names from throughout the role-playing industry and what they think of it. So we've got Steve Crow here, Bill Slavicsek, very, very famous, did most of the stuff for the Star Wars role-playing game, did lots of stuff on 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, and the Star Wars role-playing game when it went over to Wizard of the Coast. So he rates it quite highly. Chris Kubasek, Ray Winiger, again a very, very famous name in Dungeons and Dragons. He rates a 5 out of 5. An advert, the ancient folk, so various miniatures with loads of backgrounds for them. Creature feature, giant monster rules for Battletech. And in the way is this poster for Dracula. And basically for Battletech, they're making kaiju. So we've got Godzilla here, monster creation, characteristics, different creatures, giant ants and bugs, giant ape. So we're creating kaiju and giant monster movies, but in Battletech. I really like that. We've got an advert for Ars Magica 3rd edition. Historical magical thought and Ars Magica. So talking about Western magical thought and background for that, independent magicians, and lots of sources. An advert for the Middle Earth Play by Mail game. Spotlight on the artist, Tony Harris. Some gorgeous stuff there. Dice not included, a live action role-playing scenario. Detailing out an adventure in live action role-playing. And then we've got some reviews. So After Wars, Ars Magica Bestiary, Mythic Places for Ars Magica, for Buck Rogers, No Humans Allowed. For Call of Cthulhu, we've got The Stars Are Right, Champions of the North for the Champions role-playing game. For Dark Conspiracy, we've got Dark Races. Millennium's End, Nightwalker the Villiers Fair, which you guys refused to vote for and allow me to cover. The Aliens role-playing miniatures. What else we got? The Great Red Dragon, Shambling Death, Nightlife, Bloodlust for Pendragon, Shadowrun 2nd Edition Sneak Preview, which they rate 5 out of 5. Sky Realms of Jerum, Star Wars The Abduction of the Crying Dawn Singer, which I covered in one of the compilations. Star Wars Mission to Liana, I think I covered that fairly recently. Very low rating they give to it. Talislanta, Torg, must get around to covering that. Vampire the Masquerade, A World of Darkness. The Hunters Hunted, an advert for Children of the Inquisition. The top 20 games list from August and September. So Shadowrun 2nd Edition, winning in September, getting more sales. What's happening in future issues, an advert for Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and on the back cover, an advert for Shadowrun 2nd Edition. On sale this summer. So, some very, very deep dives into articles there. Lots and lots of stuff if you're wanting those subjects. But as I said, it's only covering a very few games. And I didn't tend to like that because many of the subjects aren't going to be interesting to me. I'm not heavily into Ars Magica. I'm not really into Battletech. So that's about half the magazine. Instantly no interest to me. Although Shadowrun and Werewolf stuff, lovely, lovely stuff inside. So that was White Wolf magazine issue number 33. Loads of good stuff in there. But I do find myself wondering as I leaf through these magazines and find all the contents and free gifts which was provided in them, which I never took advantage of. So, collectible cards on the cover, like the Dracula movie poster in that. Would my life have been better if I'd hung that on my wall and enjoyed it, rather than keeping it pristine in the middle of the magazine? Because that's kind of what I do. I'm probably a little bit OCD, in that I like to keep my stuff good. Which, lots of people have commented on videos, how do I manage to keep all these old games in such good condition? Because I leave them on a shelf and I don't ruin them. Obviously the games which I played and dragged to my weekly game session look a lot more battered. If you've seen my Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition Player's Handbook, it's falling apart. But so many things like this, which I left and kept good, I do wonder whether my life would have been a little bit better, a little bit more fun if I'd experienced these things, if I put them up on my walls, if I'd used the collectible cards, if I'd traded them to people who would have made use of them and got something I wanted back in return, rather than keeping everything pristine. But it's nice to be able to show it off now. Anyway, as usual, I think I've been wuttering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.